The great hall of the Celestial Council shone with a light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Supreme Elder Du Jin stood at the center of the room, his tall figure casting no shadow. His silver robes moved as if caught in a gentle breeze, though there was no wind inside the hall. "We face a problem," Du Jin said to the gathered council members. His voice was deep and clear, reaching every corner of the vast chamber. "Our oldest records are breaking down. The history of our first 1,000 years is becoming unclear." The other council members shifted in their seats. These beings, who lesser species called gods, rarely faced problems they couldn't solve. They had mastered space travel, could create and destroy stars, and had even learned to move their minds into new bodies when their old ones wore out. But this was different. Young council member Hei Yun raised her hand. Unlike the others in their flowing robes, she wore a simple white suit with glowing blue lines running down its sides. "Supreme Elder, I don't understand. Can't we just use our quantum repairs on the damaged records?" Du Jin shook his head. "We tried. Something about these oldest records is different. They're not just damaged. It's as if they were made to break down after a certain time." A murmur ran through the hall. Council member Kita stood up, his black and gold robes rustling. "Why does this matter? We are the most powerful beings in the known universe. Our past is less important than our future." "It matters," Du Jin said firmly, "because we have found something strange in the failing records." Before they broke down completely, our scientists noticed a pattern, a signature hidden in the code, something that doesn't match our way of writing data. The hall grew very quiet. These beings had explored most of the known universe. They had never found any civilization as advanced as their own. The idea that someone else might have written their oldest records was shocking. Hei Yun spoke again. "Supreme Elder, are you saying someone else created these records? That someone else existed before us?" Du Jin walked to the center of the hall. He raised his hand, and a hologram appeared above him. It showed strings of complex code, but parts of it were breaking apart, dissolving into nothing as they washed. "Look at this section," he said, pointing to a part of the code that was still clear. "This isn't just different from our way of writing. It's more advanced. Whatever wrote this new things we still don't understand." Kaita jumped up again. "Impossible. We are the most advanced beings in existence. These records must simply be corrupted. We should delete them and move on." "No," Du Jin said. His voice was quiet but firm. "We will not delete our history. Instead, I am creating a special team to study these records before they're completely gone. We need to know where we came from. We need to know who we really are." The council members looked at each other nervously. They had always believed they were the first and greatest civilization in the universe. Now that belief was starting to crack. As the meeting ended, Hei Yun stayed behind, staring at the dying code. Something about it pulled at her mind, like a half-remembered dream. She didn't know it yet, but she was looking at the first clue to a truth that would shake their civilization to its core. Du Jin watched her from the doorway. He hadn't told the council everything. In his private chambers, he had found one more thing in the failing records, a single word, written in a language he didn't recognize. The word was Earth. Hei Yun sat in her private lab, surrounded by floating screens of data. She hadn't slept in 3 days, but she didn't feel tired. Their advanced bodies didn't need much rest. Still, her mind felt heavy with questions about the corrupted records. A soft chime filled the room. One of her search programs had found something. Hei Yun sat up straighter and expanded the alert with a wave of her hand. "This can't be right," she whispered to herself. The program had detected a signal from deep space, from a part of the universe they called the Forbidden Zone. No ships had gone there in thousands of years. She checked the signal again. It was very weak, like a whisper from across the galaxy, but it had a pattern she recognized. It matched the strange code from the corrupted records perfectly. Hei Yun pressed her hand to a communication panel on her desk. "Supreme Elder Du Jin, I need to speak with you immediately." Du Jin arrived within minutes, his silver robes now looking tired and wrinkled. He had been working hard too, trying to save what he could from the failing records. "Look at this," Hei-yun said, showing him the signal data. "It's coming from the Forbidden Zone. The pattern matches our corrupted records, but that's not all." She pulled up another screen. "It also matches something else, the base structure of our genetic code." Du-jin's eyes widened. Their species had always been proud of their perfect genetic structure. It let them live forever by moving their minds to new bodies, but they had never known where this knowledge came from. "How old is this signal?" Du-jin asked. "That's the strange part," Hei-yun said. "According to my calculations, it's been repeating for at least 50,000 years. We just never noticed it because no one looks toward the Forbidden Zone." Du-jin sat down heavily in a nearby chair. 50,000 years. That's around the time our earliest records begin to fail. Just then, another alarm sounded. Hei-yun quickly checked the new alert. Her face went pale. "The signal. It's getting stronger." They watched in silence as the signal's strength grew. New data began to appear in Hei-yun's screens. Strange symbols flashed by, too fast to read, but some looked familiar. "Those look like letters from the corrupted records," Du-jin said. "Can you decode them?" Hei-yun worked quickly, her fingers dancing through the holographic controls. "Most of it is still unclear, but I found one clear message. It keeps repeating." She pressed a button, and words appeared in the air between them. "Come home." Du-jin stood up and began pacing. "This changes everything. Someone out there knows who we are. Maybe even knows where we came from. We have to go there," Hei-yun said firmly. "To the Forbidden Zone. We need to find out what's sending this signal." "The Council will never agree," Du-jin warned. "That area has been forbidden for thousands of years. Our oldest laws say never to go there." Hei-yun stood up, her eyes bright with determination. "Then maybe it's time to break those laws. We need to know the truth about who we are. And I think," she paused, looking at the repeating message, "I think whatever is sending this signal has been waiting a very long time to tell us." Du-jin looked at the message again. Something stirred in his memory, like a dream he'd forgotten long ago. Finally, he nodded. "We'll need a ship, and a crew we can trust. And most importantly, we'll need someone who knows how to get past the Council's defenses." Hei-yun smiled. "I know just the person. His name is Jin-ho, and he's the best explorer in our fleet." Jin-ho's ship, the Starweaver, was the fastest vessel ever built. It looked like a silver arrow with wings that glowed soft blue in the darkness of space. Right now, it sat hidden in a repair dock, while its captain listened to Hei-yun's wild story. "Let me get this straight," Jin-ho said, running a hand through his short black hair. "You want me to fly into the Forbidden Zone, break our oldest laws, and probably make the Council very angry. All because of a signal." Hei-yun nodded. "This isn't just any signal. It matches our genetic code. Don't you want to know where we really came from?" Jin-ho looked at Du-jin, who stood quietly in the corner of the ship's bridge. "And you support this plan, Supreme Elder?" "I do," Du-jin said. "But we must move quickly. Kita suspects something, and he has many followers in the Council." Jin-ho walked to his captain's chair and sat down. He had explored more of space than any other pilot, but the Forbidden Zone was different. No one who went there ever came back. "My ship can do it," he said finally. "But we'll need to trick the border sensors, and we'll need a good crew." "I have people I trust," Hei-yun said. She pressed a button on her wrist device. 5 more people walked onto the bridge. "Meet our team." A tall woman stepped forward first. "I'm Minna, engineer. I can keep this ship running no matter what." Next came a quiet man with kind eyes. "Yoon-gai, data specialist. I can help decode the signal." The others introduced themselves. A navigation expert, a defense specialist, and a medical officer. All of them wanted to know the truth about their past. Jin-ho nodded. "Good team. When do we leave?" "Now," Du-jin said. Kita has called a council meeting for tomorrow. They will vote to stop all research into the corrupted records. We must be gone before then. They worked quickly to prepare the ship. Minna checked the engines while Yoon-gai loaded Hae-yun's signal data into the ship's computers. The others stored supplies and checked their equipment. Just as they finished, alarms started blaring across the repair dock. They know, Hae-yun said, running to a view screen. Kita's ships are coming. Jin-ho jumped into his captain's chair. Everyone hold on. His hands flew across the controls, and the Starweaver lifted off. The ship shot out of the dock like a bullet. 3 council ships appeared behind them, their weapons charging. Kita's voice boomed through their communication system. Stop now. You are breaking our most sacred laws. But Jin-ho was the best pilot for a reason. He spun the Starweaver through a tight turn around a space station, then dove between 2 shipping lanes. The council ships fell behind, unable to match his skill. Border ahead, Minna called from her station. Sensors are active. Jin-ho smiled. Watch this. He pressed a special button, and the Starweaver seemed to disappear. They could still see it from inside, but to the border sensors, it looked like empty space. They crossed into the forbidden zone, and everything went quiet. The council ships couldn't follow them here. Hae-yun looked at her instruments. The signal is stronger now. We're on the right path. Do-jin stood at the front window, watching the strange stars of the forbidden zone. There's no going back now, he said quietly. Whatever we find out here will change everything. Jin-ho set their course, following Hae-yun's signal. Ahead of them, the unknown waited, holding secrets about who they really were and why they had been told never to come here. After 3 days of travel through the forbidden zone, the Starweaver's sensors started beeping loudly. Hae-yun rushed to her station, her eyes wide with excitement. The signal is very strong now, she said. Whatever's making it should be just ahead. Jin-ho slowed the ship down. They had passed through strange parts of space, areas where the stars looked wrong and space itself seemed to bend. But now they were entering a system with a yellow sun, much like the ones they knew. There's something odd about this space, Minna said from her engineering station. It's protected. I'm seeing energy fields I don't understand. Suddenly, the ship shuddered. A blue light washed over them, then disappeared. We just passed through some kind of barrier, Minna reported, but it let us in without any trouble, almost like it was expecting us. As they moved closer to the sun, they saw planets. Most looked empty and lifeless, but the third planet made everyone on the bridge gasp. It was blue and white, with swirling clouds and vast oceans, but something was wrong. The whole planet seemed to be covered in a faint shimmering field. It's in stasis, Minna said, checking her instruments. The whole planet is frozen in time. And the technology, it's like ours, but more advanced. Look at this, Yoon-gai called from his station. I'm picking up data streams. They're using our language, but also another one. And there's a name for this planet in the data. What is it? Do-jin asked quietly. Earth, Yoon-gai said. This planet is called Earth. Do-jin's face went pale. The word from the corrupted records. They moved the ship into orbit around Earth. The stasis field sparkled around them, but didn't stop them from scanning the surface. There are cities down there, Hae-yun reported, but they're all empty. And there are massive underground structures all over the planet. Wait, Jin-ho said, pointing at his screen. Something's happening. The stasis field around the planet flickered. For just a moment, they could see the surface clearly. Great cities stretched across the continents, their technology looking both familiar and strange. Those buildings, Minna said, leaning forward, they're built like our cities, but older, much older. Hae-yun's hands flew over her controls. The signal is coming from one of the underground structures. It's the biggest one, near what looks like a major city. Can we land? Jin-ho asked Minna. She nodded slowly. The stasis field seems to be letting us through. Like the barrier, it knows who we are. As they descended through Earth's atmosphere, everyone was quiet. They had broken their oldest laws to come here, and now they were finding technology that looked like their own, but more advanced. They landed near the entrance to the underground structure. Through the ship's windows, they could see the frozen world. Plants stood still in the wind that no longer blew. Clouds hung motionless in the sky. "Look at these readings," He-Yun said softly. "This stasis field has been running for exactly 50,000 years, the same time our records started to break down." Do-Jin stood up. "We need to go inside that structure. Whatever answers we're looking for, they're in there." "Including why this place was forbidden?" Jin-Ho asked. "Especially that," Do-Jin said, "because I'm starting to think we've been here before, a very, very long time ago." The team put on their protective suits before leaving the ship. Though the air on Earth seemed clean, they didn't want to take chances. They walked slowly toward the entrance of the underground structure, their footsteps the only sound in the frozen world. "This door," Minna said, touching the large metal entrance. "It has our writing on it." She pointed to symbols carved into the metal. Yoon-Gai stepped closer. "It says Archives of Humanity, Project Genesis." Do-Jin placed his hand on a panel beside the door. To everyone's surprise, it lit up at his touch. The door slid open silently. "It recognized you," He-Yun said, amazed. "Not just me," Do-Jin replied. "It would open for any of us. I think it was made for us to find." They walked inside. Lights came on automatically, revealing a long hallway that sloped down into the earth. The walls were lined with more writing and strange pictures. Yoon-Gai stopped to examine one image. It showed beings that looked almost like them, but slightly different. They had the same basic shape, but appeared less perfect, more varied. "These must be the original inhabitants," he said. "The ones who built this place." "Humans," He-Yun whispered, reading an inscription. They called themselves humans. The hallway led to a vast chamber filled with rows of data storage units. They looked like the ones their own civilization used, but older versions. In the center of the room stood a control panel. "This is where the signal came from," He-Yun said, checking her devices. "It's been broadcasting for 50,000 years, waiting for someone to find it." Yoon-Gai immediately went to the control panel. "I can access their records. There's so much data here. History, science, art, everything about their civilization." "Find out who they were," Do-Jin said, "and what happened to them." Yoon-Gai worked quickly. Soon, images appeared on screens around the room. They showed the history of Earth, the rise of human civilization, their great achievements and terrible wars. "They were an advanced species," Yoon-Gai reported. "Not as advanced as we are now, but they were getting there." Then something happened about 50,000 years ago. A threat from deep space. More images appeared. A massive object approaching Earth, causing destruction wherever it passed. They called it the Planet Killer. Yoon-Gai read. They knew they couldn't stop it, so they made a plan to save their species. The next images made everyone freeze. They showed humans in laboratories, working with genetic material, creating new life forms. "Project Genesis," Yoon-Gai said, his voice shaking. They created us. We were their backup plan." He-Yun sat down, her legs suddenly weak. "What do you mean, they created us?" Yoon-Gai pointed to more data flowing across the screens. "They took their own DNA and improved it, made it perfect, created beings that could live practically forever. Us." He looked at his hands as if seeing them for the first time. "We're their children, their legacy." "That can't be right," Jin-Ho said. "We're gods, advanced beings. We weren't created by anyone." "There's more," Yoon-Gai said. He brought up new images. They showed ships leaving Earth, carrying the first of their kind. "They sent us away to develop on our own. We were supposed to evolve, grow stronger. then return to Earth when the danger had passed. Return home, Du-jin said softly. That's what the signal said. But something went wrong. Yoon-ge continued. The last records show that they gave us a directive to remember our origins, but somehow we forgot. We even made laws against coming back here. Du-jin looked around the chamber at the history of their true creators. We didn't just forget, he said. Someone made us forget. Someone wanted us never to know where we came from. The team spent hours in the archives, reading the history of Earth and the truth about their own beginnings. No one spoke much. The shock was too great. They had always believed they were the first and greatest beings in the universe. Now they knew they were created by another species. Yoon-ge found more detailed records about the planet Killer and showed them on the main screen. It was a rogue planet, about the size of Jupiter. It was going to pass close to Earth's orbit. The humans knew it would cause massive destruction. Did it hit Earth? Jin-ho asked, looking at the frozen world outside. No, Yoon-ge said. It passed by. But it caused huge earthquakes, massive tidal waves, and volcanic eruptions. The humans knew it was coming years in advance. That's when they started Project Genesis. Hae-yeon had been reviewing different files. Look at this, she said. They had a three-part plan. First, create us. A new species based on their DNA but improved. Second, put Earth in stasis until the danger passed. Third, have us return to wake them up and help rebuild. Why create a new species? Minna asked. Why not just put themselves in stasis? The stasis technology wasn't perfect yet, Hae-yeon explained. They weren't sure it would last long enough. So they created us as a backup plan. We were designed to survive, even if Earth didn't. Du-jin was watching a video that showed the first of their kind being created in laboratories. They looked almost like babies, but grew much faster than normal children. They made us to be better than them, he said quietly. Stronger, smarter, longer-lived. And they succeeded, Yoon-ge added. Too well, perhaps. Look at this. He pulled up another file. The screen showed thousands of ships leaving Earth, carrying the first generation of their species. They were being sent to a distant star system to develop on their own. This was the Great Exodus, Yoon-ge explained. They sent our ancestors away with knowledge, technology, and a mission, to grow and return when it was safe. But we never came back, Jin-ho said. Until now, Hae-yeon added. Yoon-ge found more records. Something happened during the journey to our new home. There was a problem with the knowledge transfer systems. Our ancestors received all the technical knowledge they needed, but the historical data was corrupted. So we forgot where we came from, Du-jin said. We forgot about Earth and the humans. Not everyone forgot, Yoon-ge said, showing a new document. The ship captains remembered. They knew the plan. But when they reached the new world, they made a choice. The document showed a meeting of the first leaders of their civilization. They voted to hide the truth about Earth and their human creators. They decided not to tell anyone, Yoon-ge said. They wanted to build a new society without being bound to the past. They created the laws making the forbidden zone off-limits. They corrupted the historical records on purpose. They betrayed our creators, Hae-yeon said, anger in her voice. They abandoned the humans who gave us life. They thought they were protecting us, Du-jin said, still watching the videos of their creation. They wanted us to believe we were gods, not created beings. Minna, who had been quiet, suddenly pointed to a different part of the records. There's more. The humans didn't just put themselves in stasis. They're still here. Everyone turned to look at her screen. It showed vast underground chambers filled with thousands of sleeping pods. In each pod was a human in suspended animation. They're waiting for us, Minna said. They've been waiting for 50,000 years for us to come back and wake them up. Minna spent days studying the stasis field controls. The others helped when they could, but she was the best engineer among them. The stasis technology was similar to what they used, but far more advanced. It had kept an entire planet frozen in time for 50,000 years. I think I understand how it works now, Minna said on the fourth day. She stood before a massive control panel in a room they had found below the archives. The field is powered by the planet's core energy. That's why it could last so long. Can you turn it off? Dujin asked. Minna nodded slowly. I believe so. But we need to be careful. Waking an entire planet after 50,000 years won't be easy. We should start with just one section, the human sleep chambers. They agreed to her plan. Minna began the careful process of adjusting the stasis controls. Her fingers moved quickly over the panels, making small changes, monitoring the energy levels. Here we go, she said finally. She pressed a series of buttons and pulled down a large lever. The lights in the room dimmed for a moment, then came back brighter than before. On the screens around them, they could see the stasis field weakening over one small area, the underground chambers where the humans slept. It's working, Heyun said, watching the readings. The sleep chambers are starting to activate. They rushed back to the archives and down another hallway that led to the sleep chambers. Through large windows, they could see rows and rows of pods, thousands of them stretching into the distance. Lights were coming on in the pods, one by one. Should we go in? Jinho asked, looking uncertain for the first time since they'd left home. Dujin nodded. They created us for this moment, to return and help them. They entered the chamber. The air smelled clean but strange. The first row of pods was opening slowly. Inside each one was a human, their eyes still closed, their bodies beginning to stir after 50,000 years of sleep. Heyun approached one of the pods where a woman was starting to wake up. Her skin was pale, her hair dark. She looked both similar to them and different, more varied, less perfect. The woman's eyes opened. They were brown and clear. She looked at Heyun without fear, then smiled slightly. You came back, she said, her voice rough from long disuse. We hoped you would. More pods opened. More humans woke up. They seemed confused at first, but not surprised to see their visitors. They had gone to sleep expecting their creations to return someday. An older man in a white coat approached Dujin. A small tag on his coat read, Dr. Park. Welcome home, he said, though I suppose this isn't really your home anymore. You know who we are? Dujin asked. Dr. Park nodded. Of course, you're our legacy. Our children, in a way. We created your kind to survive, to grow, and to return. He looked around at the team. Though I must say, you've evolved even more impressively than we predicted. Why did you make us forget? Heyun asked. Why hide our origins? A look of confusion crossed Dr. Park's face. Forget? We never intended that. We programmed your ancestors with all our history, all our knowledge. Yungai stepped forward. Someone changed the plan. The first generation of our kind decided to hide the truth from the rest of us. They wanted us to believe we were gods, not created beings. Dr. Park seemed troubled by this news. That was never the plan. You were meant to know your history, to understand where you came from. He paused. And to know that you weren't just our backup plan. You were our greatest achievement. As more humans awoke, the team helped them from their pods. The humans were weak after their long sleep, but their minds were clear. They had gone to sleep knowing they might wake to a very different world. We need to talk to your leaders, Dr. Park said to Dujin. There is much to discuss about the future, both yours and ours. Dujin thought about the council, about Kitai and his followers who would never accept that humans were their creators. That might be difficult, he said. Not everyone will welcome this truth. News traveled fast. Despite Dujin's efforts to control the flow of information, word about Earth and the humans spread through their civilization like wildfire. Jinho had sent a message to trusted friends who told others. Soon, everyone knew the truth. Their perfect society began to crack. On their home planet, The great cities were in chaos. Some people accepted the news with wonder and curiosity. Others refused to believe it. How could gods be created by lesser beings? Kita called an emergency council meeting. The grand hall was fuller than ever before, with members shouting over each other. "This is a lie," Kita yelled, his black and gold robes swirling around him. "A trick by Du Jin and his followers to weaken our society. We have always been the first and greatest species in the universe." "But we have proof," said one of Jinho's friends who had received his message. "Images, videos, genetic records. We came from Earth. We were created by humans. Created to be better than them," another council member added, "to survive when they could not." Keita slammed his fist on the table. "Even if these humans did exist, even if they did make our distant ancestors, that means nothing. We have grown far beyond them. We are gods now, regardless of how we began." Many in the room nodded. This view was easier to accept than the idea that they were created beings with a purpose they had failed to fulfill. Meanwhile, on Earth, Du Jin was meeting with Dr. Park and other human leaders. They sat in a large meeting room that had been frozen in time for 50,000 years. "Our sensors show that your people are deeply divided," Dr. Park said. "We never wanted to cause such problems." "It's not your fault," Du Jin replied. "Our society was built on the lie that we were the first and greatest beings in the universe. The truth is difficult for many to accept." Hei-yun entered the room, her face worried. "We just got a message from home. Kita has convinced half the council that humans are a threat. They're preparing ships." She paused, her voice dropping. "Warships. They're coming to destroy Earth," Du Jin said, understanding immediately. "To erase the evidence of our origins." Dr. Park looked alarmed. "But your weapons, they could destroy this planet completely." "Yes," Hei-yun said simply. "That's what they want. To destroy the truth." Minna, who had been working with human engineers, joined them. "We can't let that happen. Not just because it would kill all the humans, but because Earth holds knowledge we've lost. Technology we never received. We need to defend Earth," Jinho said. He had been quiet until now. "We need to stop Kita." "With what?" Hei-yun asked. "We have one ship. They're bringing a fleet." One of the human leaders, a woman named Chief Sung, cleared her throat. "Perhaps we can help. Before the stasis, we developed defense systems to protect Earth. They should still work." "Would you use them against your own creations?" Du Jin asked, surprised. Chief Sung shook her head. "No, not to destroy. Just to defend. To give us time to talk." As they discussed plans, Yoon-gae burst into the room. "Message from home. More ships are coming, but not all are with Kita. Many of our people want to see Earth for themselves. They want to meet their creators." Du Jin looked out the window at the blue sky of Earth. The stasis field was completely down now. Birds flew again, wind blew through trees, and oceans moved with waves. The planet was alive again. "So it will be decided here," he said. "The future of both our peoples. Not by war, I hope," Dr. Park said. "No," Du Jin agreed. "But I fear Kita won't be stopped without a fight. He believes too strongly in our godhood. He can't accept that we were created for a purpose." "What purpose?" Jinho asked. "To save humans. To rebuild Earth." "No," Dr. Park said. "Something much simpler. You were created to grow, to learn, and to come home. Just like any child." The sky above Earth filled with ships. First came Kita's fleet, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. Then more ships arrived, those who had followed Jinho's message and wanted to see Earth for themselves. On the surface, Du Jin stood with Dr. Park and the other humans, watching the standoff in the sky. "They're not attacking yet," Hei-yun said, monitoring communications. "Kita is trying to convince the other ships to join him." "We need to talk to all of them," Du Jin said. "Not just fight." Dr. Park nodded. Violence was never the answer we hoped for when we created your kind. Minna had been working with the human engineers on the old Earth defense systems. We're ready, she reported. We can protect key areas if they attack. Do Jin made his decision. Open a channel to all ships. I want everyone to hear what I have to say. He-Yun set up the communication link. Do Jin's voice would reach every ship in orbit, including Kita's fleet. This is Supreme Elder Du Jin, he began. I stand on the surface of Earth, the birthplace of our species. I have seen the proof with my own eyes. We were created by humans, made from their genetic code but improved. This is not something to be ashamed of. It is something to be proud of. In his flagship, Kita listened with anger on his face. Lies. He shouted to his crew. Prepare to fire on the main human cities. But before he could give the order, Dr. Park's voice came through the communication system. This is Dr. Park, lead scientist of Project Genesis. I speak to the children of Earth. We created your kind not to be our servants or our saviors, but to be our greatest achievement. You were not made to be tools. You were made to be the next step in evolution. Keita paused, surprised to hear a human voice. Dr. Park continued. We never wanted you to worship us or return as our helpers. We wanted you to grow, to achieve your own greatness. And you have. You've become more than we could have imagined. We are not your masters. We are your ancestors, your family. On many ships, crews looked at each other in confusion. This was not what they expected to hear from their supposed creators. Down on Earth, Du Jin looked at Dr. Park with new understanding. You didn't create us to save you, he said. No, Dr. Park smiled. We created you because that's what intelligent life does. It creates new life, it evolves, it grows. You were our gift to the future. He-Yun sent these words to all the ships as well. In his flagship, Kita struggled with what he was hearing. If we're not gods, he said quietly, then what are we? His second-in-command answered, we're their children, their legacy. One by one, the ships in Kita's fleet powered down their weapons. The crews wanted to see Earth, to learn about their origins. Even Kita, after long hours of thought, ordered his flagship to land. Over the next few weeks, thousands of their kind came to Earth. They walked the old human cities, now coming back to life as more humans awoke from stasis. They studied the archives, learning the true history they had been denied. And the humans shared everything. Their knowledge, their art, their history. Not as gods giving gifts to worshippers, but as one family sharing with another. What happens now? Jin Ho asked Du Jin as they watched humans and their created children talking together in what had once been a park. We build a new future, Du Jin said. Together. Dr. Park joined them, along with Kita, who had finally accepted the truth. We have much to learn from each other, Dr. Park said. You've grown in ways we never imagined. And we have knowledge you've lost. Two species, Kita said thoughtfully. Both intelligent, both advanced. Not gods and worshippers, but family. He-Yun finished for him. Different branches of the same family tree. Above them, the stars shone in the night sky. Somewhere out there, the planet killer that had threatened Earth 50,000 years ago was long gone. The danger had passed, but it had led to something unexpected. Not just the survival of humanity, but the birth of a new species who had now returned home. Not as gods, but as children coming home to meet their parents for the first time.